Hello and welcome to the Champions Adjust Sports Talk Show. My name is Aaron Machbitz, and this is episode 18 of the Champions Adjust Sports Talk Show. And you guessed it, this show is sponsored by Champions Adjust, which is a mindset-centered sports performance brand. And we have mindset classes, mental skills classes. We do a podcast episode every single day. We do this sports show once a week, and we have really cool apparel and merchandise, which can all be found at champsadjust.com. So thank you for that. Thank you for tuning in. And here we go with this week in sports. We got one topic to talk about this week that's been all over sports media. So let's jump right in. Professional sports are sports entertainment, but WWE is really the only company that actually admits it. Professional sports don't really admit they're sports entertainment. They admit sometimes they're entertainment. They want to make money and draw fans, of course, but they really love that they're professional sports, that it's real. But sports entertainment is really encompasses everything. It encompasses WWE, all professional sports, UFC. It's all about entertainment. And WWE is really the only company that admits it because drama fuels ratings. It's all just a big soap opera. So you can look at the NFL, for example, they bring in Taylor Swift for the drama and for the buzz, just like WWE does when they bring in outside celebrities for drama and ratings. It's all manufactured. It's all for the buzz, the drama, and the ratings. You can also look at the NFL because they love to make Aaron Rodgers just this villain or true WWE heel, even though he seems like a great guy. And maybe you don't know him, maybe you do know him, but they love to paint this picture of him as this villain and this true WWE heel. But making him out as an evil, bad villain makes people want to tune in to watch him or listen to him or talk about him. So it increases the drama, increases the ratings. Like right now, we are still waiting for him to sign. And it seems like in reality, it's either Pittsburgh or wait till something happens or someone gets injured or there's a desperate need for Aaron Rodgers. I've always been a big fan of Aaron Rodgers, but WWE, but NFL loves to paint him as this evil bad guy. So when his name gets mentioned on a ticker or a YouTube video, people will tune in. I've done the same thing as I talk about Aaron Rodgers on this show. And so then we have the latest beef in the sports world that comes from the NBA. We have LeBron James versus Stephen A. Smith. Listen, WrestleMania 41 is just around the corner in April, so let's see LeBron and Stephen A. really handle their beef in front of the whole world with Pat McAfee as the referee. But it would be actually, in reality, great if LeBron and Stephen A. sat down for a chat as with Shannon Sharp as the moderator to sort of handle whatever this sort of feud beef thing that they have going on is, instead of maybe going to WrestleMania 41. But that would be cool in and of itself. But let's take an actual look, an honest look of how we got here. So you have one of the biggest names in sports in LeBron, and one of the biggest names in sports media in Stephen A. Smith. And the Lakers hosted the Knicks on Thursday, March 6th. Superstar LeBron James confronted ESPN analyst Stephen A. with a passionate message during a timeout. A fan sitting at crypto.com arena recorded the moment and shared it on X, obviously formerly Twitter, causing the one-sided exchange to go viral overnight. In the weeks following the incident, Smith took to various platforms to address James and the incident. As things began to die down, James fanned the flames by addressing Smith during an hour-long appearance on the Pat McAfee show, which was simulcast on YouTube and ESPN. Let it be known that Stephen A. Smith has been talking about LeBron James for his entire career. Obviously, that's normal. He's an ESPN analyst, and LeBron James is one of the, if not the greatest players of all time in NBA history, and one of the most polarizing and popular athletes in the world. The newest chapter of this beef has consisted of, jokes, semi-serious threats of physical violence, internet memes, and personal shots. Here's how things got to where they're at this point. While things intensified in early March, seeds of the feud, quote unquote feud, right? WWE type feud, were likely planned throughout Smith's decade-long coverage of James in the NBA. Like I just mentioned, the final straw is believed to be on Smith's comments on LeBron's son, Bronny, after the Lakers lost to the 76ers on January 28th, 2025. In a monologue on ESPN's First Take, Smith spoke at length about Bronny's struggles in the league before directing the blame towards LeBron. Here is a snippet of what Smith actually said, and I quote, "I'm trying to be as respectful as I possibly can towards LeBron James, one of the top 2 or 3 players in the history of basketball, number 2 in my eyes. I'm pleading with LeBron James as a father, stop this. Stop this. We all know that Bronny James is in the NBA because of his dad. First game of the season, opening night, father-son duo playing in the NBA game for the first time. An absolutely positively wonderful story, and then reality sets in. We love what we're seeing from him in the G League because that's where you belong. As you hone your skills and you get better and you legitimately earn, which I believe he has the potential to do, I'm rooting for Bronny James. It would be cruel to root against him, but he's LeBron James' son, and everybody knows what attention that brings." Smith went as far as to say LeBron is exposing Bronny while claiming to be doing so with compassion. Very interesting. Setting the seeds for this WWE feud. As February flew by, Smith was courtside at Crypto.com Arena to watch his beloved Knicks face LeBron and the Lakers. Smith's attendance set the scene for a confrontation, building the scene, creating the heat, in which LeBron appears to say, "Keep my son out of this, blah, 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 blah." So basically, keep my son out of your mouth is basically what the words were saying before walking off. One day later, Smith addressed the confrontation on First Take, saying, "That wasn't a basketball player confronting me. That was a parent. That was a father. I can't sit here and be angry or feel slighted by LeBron James in any way in that regard." Smith added, apparently he feels like I was slighting his son. What I said, the things that I said, I wasn't talking about Bronny James. I was talking about the position that he was being put in by his dad. Later that Friday, Smith shared a YouTube video titled "LeBron and I Had a Confrontation, My Side of the Story," a segment from the latest episode of his show. The 27-minute video dives deeper into what Smith disclosed during First Take earlier that morning. Stephen A. Smith loves the drama. He feeds off of it. He'll do 712 videos covering the same thing, saying absolutely nothing. But as long as the headlines are there, he will keep diving into this thing. And 2 days after James confronted Smith in LA, he and the Lakers were in Boston to face the Celtics in primetime. James' former teammate and current ESPN analyst Richard Jefferson was on the call, and ESPN cameras captured a pregame moment between the two. Microphones faintly caught James, who used "that's the only thing I don't give a fuck about," blah, 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 before his words were muffed by Jefferson standing in the way. Seconds later, James could be heard saying, "But what he talked about, blah, 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 fucking father, I'm a father," whatever, all this stuff, words, before more inaudible utterances. It's very interesting that nowadays we can sort of catch everything on camera and we can hear everything great, but these moments we can't. Some muffled this, some muffled that. This guy gets in the way, can't hear exactly what he's saying. What's the altercation? What's the reasoning? Sometimes can't hear it. Oh, it's very interesting to think about it like that. The following week, Smith appeared, of course, he appeared on Gil's Arena podcast with the Jefferson exchange in mind. Smith shifted his tone from his first explanation during First Take days prior. He referred to James' decision to confront him as weak and some bullshit. Smith went on saying what he was really talking about, which was confirmed with his conversation with Richard Jefferson, is that I was talking about him as a father. And so what happens is that he had said that to me, that I wouldn't have been thrown off. I would have come right back at him. Yes, I was talking about you. You did this shit. Man, it's building. The anticipation is building so close to WrestleMania 41. I can't believe LeBron James versus Stephen A. Smith is going to be the main event. Get out of the way, Cody Rhodes. Get out of the way, John Cena. This is your real main event being just manufactured in real time. And so then you get closer to the current day, which is on March 26, 2025, 20 days after the confrontation was captured. James finally addresses it publicly. He first addressed Smith's content in the aftermath of the confrontation, calling it a Taylor Swift tour, citing the number of stops and videos Smith has made. And so that was on the Pat McAfee show, I believe. From there, James shared that he would find it funny that Smith claimed that he did not plan on addressing the run-in until the video was shared. Are you kidding me? James said. It is one person that couldn't wait for the video to drop so you can dress it. It's your ass. I mean, I totally believe that. Stephen A. Smith absolutely loves this drama. He's gonna just comment on it exactly as soon as it drops. He can't wait for it. He's been doing it for a while. I mean, First Take is basically a soap opera for sports, and those who watch it understand that. And so James also told Pat McAfee that he completely missed the whole point. The whole point, never would I ever not allow people to talk about the sport and criticize players about what they do. That is your job, to criticize or to be in a position where if a guy's not performing, you can criticize them. You know, that's all part of the game. But when you take it out and you get personal with it, it's my job not only to protect my damn household, but protect my players. I mean, that's an important note to think about, right? Obviously, the job of sports media is to talk about sports, but they're going to create drama when it's not necessary because that gets ratings. And then they're obviously allowed to criticize players, but you have to do it in a way that's meaningful, that's constructive, that can uplift and support the sport, not just like tear down, this guy sucks, this guy sucks, this guy sucks. You can always see it like how people talk about these type of sports, like basketball, baseball, NBA, whatever, and they never talk about that in like the UFC. In the UFC, they don't really talk about the guy who lost sucking because he went out there and he gave his best and he's a damn fighter and he's putting his life on the line. They always talk about how good the guy did that won. In these other sports, they always talk about how bad this person played and they suck and their legacy is ruined. And it's so exaggerated that it gets to the point where it's annoying. I mean, they were talking about Patrick Mahomes after this Super Bowl loss to the Eagles like he was the worst quarterback that's ever existed on the face of the planet. That's an insane take, but you can make a headline out of that. They would never say that in the UFC, one, because that UFC fighter might go and slap them in the face, but for some reason that context isn't the same in UFC as it is in like baseball, football, basketball, things of that nature. Because I think these pundits and these commentators feel like more inclined to be able to say that that guy sucks, he's shitty, whatever, he should be benched, kick him off the team, instead of maybe giving some constructive feedback or actually critiquing the performance rather than critiquing the human and the player. And I think those things get misconstrued all of the time. And so again, after explaining his side of things on Pat McAfee, James sent one final dig before moving on, saying, I know he's going to be happy as hell. He's going to be smiling from ear to ear when he hears me talking about him. And I think that's true too. Oh my God, he's going to get home, grab some ice cream out of the fucking freezer and sit in the chair in his tidy whities on the couch. Relax, bro. Like, relax. Seriously. And then unsurprisingly, like LeBron said, Smith returned to his YouTube channel Wednesday night to address James' comments on the Pat McAfee show. In a 52-minute video titled LeBron, The Lies Keep Coming, Smith calls James a liar with claims that that his ass lies a lot and that LeBron James is full of it. I watched about, let's say, 30 minutes of this 52-minute video, and he basically said nothing. Yes, he calls LeBron James a liar. He says he lies a lot. He's full of it, yada, yada. But he doesn't actually say anything of substance. There's no real talk here. Like LeBron didn't really say anything either on the Pat McAfee show. He just said that Stephen A. Smith missed the point. I think that was more of a point to all of the people who talk about basketball because they're talking about NBA's decline in ratings and what can they do and yada, yada, yada. And LeBron James feels like they're diminishing the sport rather than trying to uplift it. And yeah, it's supposed to be quote unquote personal with Stephen A. Smith, but both of them haven't really said anything. Like nothing's really actually happened. And so in this 52-minute video, there's a cleverly sort of spliced clip from the beginning of Smith's video, cuts a portion of the quote in which he says, had I done something, what would I do? You want this to be a reincarnation of Chris Rock and Will Smith, Smith said, and then about Smith's viral slap of Chris Rock during the Academy Awards. And let me state it for the record while we bring up that. Let me assure you, it wouldn't have gone down like that. I would have gotten my ass kicked because if that man put hands on me, I would have immediately swung on him. The clip that quickly went viral omits Smith's admission that he would not stand a chance in a physical confrontation with James, a fact he reiterated in a post to X. The damage was already done because in clip culture, you can just clip whatever you want, slice it up, and put it however you feel like will get you the most traction, even though Smith was very clear that he would have gotten his ass kicked, but the damage was already done. However, as James returned to Instagram on Wednesday night to post a video of Smith doing boxing training along with a caption that featured countless laughing emojis and womp, womp, womp to mimic a losing horn. Thursday, Continuing on, Thursday, Smith spent the first 15 minutes of First Take addressing James' comments and social media activity, insinuating that the Lakers' superstar issue is rooted in Smith's insistence that Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time. That's up for debate. It really is. I say LeBron. Most people say Michael Jordan just because I watched LeBron in his prime for the last 20 years doing the damn thing. Smith also got personal, mentioning James' absence from Dwayne Wade's Hall of Fame ceremony and saying that James was not present at Kobe Bryant's public memorial, though reports from 2020 absolutely refute that claim. Smith later recanted his statement and clarified that he misspoke on James's attendance at Bryant's memorial. LeBron James made it a point to acknowledge the volume of content Smith has produced around the confrontation. Here is a roundup of when and where Smith spoke on his run-in with the four-time MVP. Are you ready for this? This is a lot. You have March 6th, James confronts Smith at the Crypto.com arena. And then on March 7th, Smith addresses James on ESPN's First Take. And then the same day, Stephen A. shares his side of the story on his own YouTube show. And then March 11th, he goes on Gilbert Arenas' podcast. March 12th, he discusses the incident on Fox News with Sean Hannity, like that's an important thing to talk about on Fox News. March 26th, James shares his side of the story on the Pat McAfee show. And then on the same day, Smith addresses that with a 52-minute YouTube video. And then the next day, on the 27th, Smith opens up First Take by getting personal with James and further addressing the McAfee appearance. So that's basically the whole story in a nutshell. And continuing with this WWE theme that I started with, I believe this whole thing between Smith and LeBron is absolutely pretend, it's fake, and it's manufactured behind the scenes. I went through the whole thing. Nothing has actually happened the whole time. Yes, he said some stuff about Bronny James. Cool. Yes, he said some stuff about him being a father and he shouldn't let Bronny in the league. And then they talked about how he does this and that. And then he made a bunch of content. They made a bunch of videos. I mean, they've been going on and on and on. I just replayed how many things Stephen A. Smith has been able to use as a way to talk about LeBron James, and the same way with LeBron. And so I just think this whole thing is absolutely manufactured. Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James are texting in private. I'm not sure who else is in on it, but NBA ratings are down, as I've discussed on this show, and people have discussed in sports media. And this is one way to get more eyes on the product, more eyes on LeBron James, more eyes on the Lakers. And because people are attracted to drama. Why are there reality shows? Why is WWE so popular? Why are soap operas been on for not thousands of years, for years? Soap opera's been on. I think my mom has been watching the same soap opera since she's been in college. That was when she was 18. She's 62 years old now. She's been watching the same soap opera for that long. I mean, Stephen A. Smith is in a soap opera. I think he's in General Hospital. He understands the drama. He understands what it brings. And so LeBron and Stephen A. decided to just maybe the first encounter they had where, I shared that the quote from Stephen A. Smith where he talks about LeBron James, and his compassion, and maybe Bronny shouldn't be in the NBA, and yada 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 yada. Maybe that one was real, and then from there, I think they manufactured this whole thing because they knew they could get talked about. They knew they could get ratings. They knew they could get media attention. And so LeBron and Stephen A. are obviously texting behind the scenes, talking about where to go, what to do. And then that's obviously why LeBron James didn't go on First Take to address him. He went on Pat McAfee, another ESPN show. And then Stephen A. could talk about it on his show and then on First Take, and then yada, 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 back and forth. And then eventually maybe what will happen is that Stephen A. and LeBron James will sit down to have a conversation, again, moderated by Shannon Sharpe, which will potentially be on Shannon's show or on ESPN or simulcast on both. And it's all just manufactured. Because if you really look at this feud, again, quote unquote feud, beef, whatever you want to call it, nothing has actually happened except that everyone in sports media is talking about it, which is their goal. Which is the goal for the whole thing between Stephen A. and LeBron, was for people to talk about it. So again, they can go on. I think the truth and the reality is that they need to have a sit-down conversation, even though that's probably pretend too, but it just looks good for public eye that two men can come together and have a discussion and really hash out their beef, even though the beef is pretend, it's fake, and it's manufactured. So if they really, again, want to stamp this rivalry, then Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James will meet at WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas to settle it. Maybe Bronny James is the special guest referee. Maybe Pat McAfee is the special guest referee. Maybe there's a tag team match. This is what needs to happen because this is how this feud has been portrayed, and all of this drama that occurs in professional sports is just like WWE, and it's sports entertainment because it draws people in. I mean, I'm freaking talking about it right here, right now. One, because I absolutely love WWE. And if you want to follow my WWE content, you can go to Pro Wrestling Daily on YouTube for all your professional wrestling content. But then it just relates here to these so many different things about these feuds and how people are attached to this, and the narratives that we love and the stories that we can tell through sports, and how we can get attracted and attached to all of this stuff. And it's also indicative of the content culture, the information age, and just sort of the things that people get distracted by in terms of their life and in terms of what sports are supposed to be about. And so I just wanted to share that whole story in a nutshell because I found it very, very interesting. And I gave you all of that information just to tell you at the very end that I think it's manufactured, it's pretend, and it's fake. And Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James and others are probably in on it. Maybe Pat McAfee is too. He works for WWE. He understands the deal. Maybe he also wants NBA ratings to go back up. Who knows? But I think it's very interesting. So let me know your thoughts. Do you think it's real? Do you think it's pretend? Do you think it's a little bit of both? Do you think it's manufactured? And then I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So comment below or send me a message or whatever the case may be. But that's that. So there's that. But remember, it's baseball season, and that's the most important thing. So we should all be watching Major League Baseball because it's the best sport in the world. So cheers to that. And I think that's all I have for you today and this week on the Champions Adjust Sports Talk Show. Remember, we do a podcast every single day. We have mental skills and mindset classes. We also have great apparel and merchandise. So head over to champsadjust.com for all things Champions Adjust. Thank you. Lots of love and cheers.